Welcome to Friday! Yay, Friday! We're so happy it's Friday. And we read a really cute book yesterday about a Yeti. And we kind of wonder, as a class, if Yetis are really real. The Yeti story yesterday was pretty cute, and it told us some things that Yetis like and some things that Yetis don't like. Well, today is kind of a similar story, except it's kind of a sillier version of the story. And this story is called Spaghetti with a Yeti. Let's find out what goes on in this story. As I'm reading, I would love for you to think and listen for maybe making a prediction if it is a fiction or non-fiction story. So be thinking about that. We'll talk about it at the end. Be thinking about it if it's fiction or nonfiction, and then we'll get to the bottom of this in a little bit. Spaghetti with a Yeti. A boy called George had an excellent plan to go and discover the Yeti. He put in his backpack a warm, woolly hat, a map, and a tin of spaghetti. Look at, he cleans his room like my kids do, trying to shove everything under the bed. Under here, he has books about Yetis. He has a Yeti 2000. He has a little button that says, I love Bigfoot. Up here, it says, I want to believe. He wants to believe that Yetis are real. Slowly, George climbed up a steep mountain path in search of the mythical beast when he stumbled straight into a monster who was eating a sumptuous feast. Hooray! Shouted George. I knew you'd be here. I'm sure that you must be a Yeti. The monster stood up with a furious gaze. Are you crazy? My name is Betty. Is it a Yeti? No. Not a Yeti. It's a monster named Betty. So sorry, Betty, said George with a smile, but I'm taking the Yeti some lunch. In that case, you'll want to take some of these crunchy bones, for the Yeti likes food with a crunch. So George climbed up the steep mountain path to track down the hideaway brute. When he stumbled upon a big monster with a face like a battered old boot. Yippee! Shouted George. I've tracked you down now. I've been searching so long for the Yeti. The monster glared down with the angriest growl. How insulting! My name is Hetty. Hetty. It does. So sorry, Hetty, said George with a sigh, but I'm taking the Yeti a treat. In that case, you'll want to take one of these goats, for the Yeti likes food with a bleat. So George trudged on up the steep mountain path, dragging the goat by her tail, when he spotted a shape in the distance and heard the most bone-chilling wail. Hurrah! Shouted George. At last it is you. I've been looking so hard for the Yeti. The monster looked down with a horrible howl. Are you bonkers? My name is Nettie. Not the Yeti. So sorry, Nettie, sighed George, feeling glum, but I'm taking the Yeti a snack. In that case, you'll want to take lobsters and crabs, for the Yeti likes food he can crack. So George plodded on up the steep mountain path. The difficult climb made him puff. Exhausted, he threw himself down on the ground. That's it. I've had enough. As George sat hopelessly, his head in his hands, a shadow fell over that place. He felt something hairy, a prod in the back, and then turned and peered up at...
a Yeti.
Who do you think it is?
A Yeti.
A Yeti. Look at the goat. The crab is pinching the goat's leg, and so he's going, ah. A face! Look at their faces. Look at his face.
Oh my goodness, look at his nose.
Look at his large nose, and his lips are kind of like kissy lips. And these guys are scared to death. Look at all their eyeballs. Their eyeballs are like, they're scared to death. I found you, cried George with a big happy grin. And he showed all his gifts to the Yeti. But the monster looked down at the crab and the goat and said, sorry, I just eat spaghetti. Does he want all the things that he brought him?
No.
He only wants spaghetti.
Just throw those things down the hill.
You might as well let the goat go and let the crab live and the lobster. Look at their faces. Look at the goat. He looks like he's smiling, isn't he?
He's like,
He's pretty cute. I knew it, said George with a whoop of delight, and he opened the battered old tin. Then he tipped the spaghetti out into a bowl. There's the spaghetti in a bowl. And look at the Yeti.
he's so happy.
He's so happy. 2 thumbs up. And George and the Yeti tucked in. Slurp. Looks like they're having quite a yummy feast. Look how tiny the fork is in the Yeti's fingers. I think that's really cute. All right, I'm going to ask my class, and I hope you do the same at home. If you think this story was a fiction story, give me a thumbs up. If you think it was a nonfiction story, give me a thumbs down. If you gave me a thumbs up, you're right. This is a made-up story. What are some clues that we can look at in the book that tell us that it is made up, that it is fiction? Yes.
Can I turn on the light?
What are some things that we found in the story that are kind of made up things? What do you think?
Yeah.
The Yeti. We don't know that there's really Yetis, especially Yetis that look like that eat spaghetti. I think that's pretty silly. Yes.
All kinds of Yetis eat whatever they can find.
Okay. What do you think?
Monsters aren't even one thing.
I would agree with that. When we look back in the story, I want to see the monsters, the pictures of the monsters, and monsters are not real. They're made up. They're made up characters, especially monsters that dress up and wear clothing. That is so, so silly. So you are correct. This is a fiction story. It is not real. It was made up by someone really smart. And that someone who made up this story was Adam and Charlotte Gillian. It was funny and we enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too. We'll see you next time.